Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wormhole presentation for the Sui Overflow Hackathon. Now, first of all, I'm super stoked to be here. I'm super excited to see what you all are going to be building. And this presentation is really here to help you on that journey through discovering Wormhole, building on it, but also we're going to talk a little bit about the Sui-specific hackathon bounties that we have set up here. So yeah, before we go in, a quick introduction. My name is Urban, and I work at the Wormhole Foundation. I do a number of different things. Primarily, also, I'm concerning myself with the DevRel efforts at the foundation and across the Wormhole ecosystem. So without further ado, let's just dive in. Let's talk about interoperability. Let's talk a little bit about what that means for us, for the world, and for the blockchain space. But before we do that, let's have a look at this picture. Well, some of you might think, why are you showing us this picture of some garbage lying on the bottom of the ocean? Well, it's not that simple. This picture is actually a internet cable laid at the bottom of the ocean. And currently we have 1.2 million kilometers of these wires, which pretty much practically connect all of us together so that we can talk to each other, we can send messages, we can send funny pictures, we can do business with each other, and so on. So there is a real need in the world for us to be working together, to be talking, to be sharing information, regardless on which continent you sit, in which country you sit, in which company you sit. There's a real need for us to interoperate, to work together. And this is how the physical world has done it, right? We have had telephones, we have telephone wires, and today we have internet cables. And a similar trend actually can be observed within the blockchain and cryptocurrency space, where there's an increasing need for connectivity. Now, to paint a little bit more plastic picture, here's what the number of active blockchain looks like over the past couple of years. In fact, from 2013 up to last year, we've seen a number of blockchains come online. As a matter of fact, there's more than 100 at this point, if not even more, that are producing blocks and are working out there. There's also an interesting trend going on that a lot of the volume that used to be traded on centralized exchanges is moving towards decentralized exchanges. So there's a very real and tangible move from the users of blockchain technology to move more activity on chain. So as you can see, this kind of starts alluding to why there's a real need for different blockchains to start talking to each other and being more interconnected. Now, you've heard me say the word blockchain interoperability a couple of times. So what does that actually mean? Well, interoperability, at the most basic sense, enables isolated blockchain networks to communicate with one another. So send information, send tokens, send data, whatever that might be. But what does that enable? Why do you even want that? Well, you want to break out of the silo, you want to break out of the bubble. And that pretty much means that you see user growth, right? The more you are interoperable, the more you can talk to other blockchains, other ecosystems, the more users you can talk to, which means that that also unlocks some sort of scalability for your project. There's a potential for TVL growth, as you're not only in one silo anymore, you're looking at liquidity from more than one blockchain ecosystem. And this also unlocks new use cases because you're not just unlocking new users, you're potentially also unlocking new tech that can enable you to build out different use cases. But this all sounds very nice and fancy, but what are some of the considerations for interoperability? Because at the end of the day, it's not a simple matter. It's not a simple task to get done. So I think first and foremost, security is pretty much the number one consideration that even you or us working in this space, building the space, need to have. Decentralization, the user experience, the developer experience, whether stuff is open source or not, is the code verifiable, and how scalable it is. I mean, these are very, very important topics when it comes to considering what interoperability solution are you going to be using. Is the interop solution open source? Is it sufficiently decentralized? Is it actually secure? Has it been audited? Is it scalable? What's the experience that you have when you use it? So yeah, a couple of kind of very important tidbits to keep in mind as you step forward on your multi-chain journey. Now, more specifically, what is Wormhole, right? We went from what is interoperability. Let's talk a little bit about what Wormhole is. Well, Wormhole is the leading interoperability platform for building multi-chain bridges and other types of applications. I think it's important to note here that Wormhole is not a bridge. It is rather a platform. It is a protocol on top of which other applications are being built, bridging being one of them, bridging tokens specifically being one of them. And we're going to dive into some of the use cases later on. So Wormhole currently operates across over 30 blockchains, across 6 runtimes, and has seen over 1 billion messages being sent using the underlying infrastructure. There's over 200 applications built with it, and those applications have to date transferred over 40 billion in value. So overall, there's a large network of blockchains, of supported technologies, and a lot of usage of what we today call Wormhole. Now, just to give you an example what these blockchains are, we're not going to go into details, but pretty much to show you a few of these that Wormhole is currently integrated with. An important and very interesting topic and aspect of Wormhole are its core contributors. Now, Wormhole, we just say it in lay terms, Wormhole, but in reality, what Wormhole is, it is composed and comprised of several different organizations working together. So we really are not just trying to decentralize on the tech level, but also on the kind of social and engineering level, where that tech is also built. So without trying to list all of them, it starts from companies like Wormhole Labs, X Labs, the foundation. We've got partners that are working specifically on research, security, on more of the growth and community aspects, ZK most recently, and so on. So what Wormhole is today is really a collaborative effort to bring forth the best in interoperability that we can via these, frankly, fantastic partners that we have on board. So let's talk a little bit about use cases. There's DeFi, there's governance, token transfers, Oracle feeds, NFTs, multi-chain apps. So there's a bunch that's out there. Without going too deep into each, but just briefly talking about it. So DeFi is kind of self-explanatory. We've seen a lot of lend and borrow markets, DEXs, and so on. So a lot going on in the DeFi space. Governance is probably one of my favorite topics, to be honest, because for the first time, we're able to see really, truly multi-chain governance solutions. Uniswap actually being one of the first ones that implemented something like this. More recently, Wormhole has also announced that we're moving towards a multi-chain governance system, which we call MultiGov, and more stuff is going to be released in the coming weeks and months. But generally, governance is a huge effort and a very, very important use case. Token transfers goes very nicely also with DeFi, enables different types of bridges to be built, essentially. Oracle feeds, for instance, Pyth is built on top of the Wormhole messaging layer. Pyth went from being an Oracle provider within the Solana ecosystem to suddenly expanding to all of these chains. So NFTs also can go multi-chain, can go cross-chain. And something that I'm also very, very excited about is the native multi-chain applications, Pike Synonym, Hashflow, and others. These applications are, they're blockchain applications, they're decentralized applications, but the unique flavor here is that they are built multi-chain first. So their starting point really isn't Solana or Ethereum or Sui or Avalanche or Algorand. It is simply being a blockchain application that spans the entirety of what we call the blockchain space or the Web3 ecosystem, the crypto space, however you want to call it. So I think this is where a lot of potential lies and a lot of new unlocks, new use cases can be built as well. All right, now let's talk a little bit about the multi-chain track, the specifically wormhole-specific track within the Sui Overflow Hackathon. The multi-chain track is really there for you to leverage Wormhole, the Wormhole platform, alongside Sui. At the intersection of these two, where we're going to see applications to the submissions to the multi-chain track within the Sui Overflow Hack. There's currently 3 prizes, the first one being 30,000, second 15, and there's 2 7,500 third prizes. Submission requirements, really this is, I hope, quite self-explanatory. You got to build something with Wormhole and using Sui. These two coming together will form some sort of submission. So at the base level, this is the most basic submission requirement. Although I think, and you'll see in some of the ideas that we have listed later on, you can build something that spans quite a few blockchains, right? I told you there's 30 plus blockchains being connected to Wormhole. So really, you can really make very, very good use across a number of different blockchains and a number of different use cases as well. The judging is going to be done for the multi-chain track by experts and Wormhole core contributors. So currently we've got Nikhil and Chase that work at the foundation and X Labs. But as we move along, we're probably going to add quite a few to this judging panel, so to truly make it a more decentralized effort on the judging side as well. More information can be found on the Notion page that has been shared with participants. If you currently don't have access to that, you can scan this QR code or a bit.ly link, because it's just a little bit shorter than the long Notion link. So bit.ly/multichain Wormhole should give you all the details. All right, let's talk a bit about the technical architecture of Wormhole. So we're shifting gears from like higher level into more and more nitty-gritty stuff and the technical details around work. The technical architecture, before we go into that, there's 3 terms that are really important to clear up and let you know upfront before we discuss these things. So a VAA, Verified Action Approval, is essentially a core messaging primitive sent from some source chain. It includes details of the event and some of the guardian and the guardian's signature. So what is a guardian, you might ask? Well, we not only have one guardian, we have a network of 19 guardians. These are trusted, highly trusted parties, actually validator companies, large operations that are truly trusted and highly secure. And they run full nodes for the Wormhole supported chains. So they're really responsible for watching logs from the core contract, and assuming conditions are met, they would then sign and gossip these VAs forward to what we call the relayer. So relayers are, kind of think of them as off-chain processes that deliver the VAA to the destination chain. And to make this a bit more graphic, this is how it looks on a very high level, very simple. Right? So you have a source chain that has some contracts deployed, and you have a target chain that has also some contracts deployed. In between, there's a process which involves the VAA, the guardians, and the relayers. So part of it is on-chain, part of it is off-chain. But generally, this is how it works, right? A message is being transferred from the source chain over to the target or destination chain. And this is a much more detailed look at the message flow. This graphic is also available on the docs. So if you go to docs.wormhole.com, you should find this as well. But to make it a little bit simpler, or at least try to guide you through it, like I said, we have source contracts on the source chain, which are which wait for finality before they emit any kind of messages. Now, that message is then transferred over to the Guardian network. And the Guardian network needs to verify each of these messages and sign it. So once that happens, you essentially have a VAA that needs to be transferred over to the target contract on the target chain. That happens by using a relayer. A relayer, like I said, is a off-chain process. Pretty much think of it as a mailman, right? It gets the mail and delivers it over to the target contract. And that is pretty much what it is. On a very high level, this is what we also call the messaging layer. You're going to hear me talk a little bit more about messaging as a product, essentially, as well. So, and here we are. If we move over to the product suite that you see, I'm actually very happy to tell you that this list has grown over the past couple of years, and we do expect it to grow further in the future as well. The reason for this is that we are very much responsive to what is happening out in the market, what are some of the kind of feature requests and demands from our user and customer base. So this list really is a evolution. Now, we're going to go into all of them one by one, but just simply to list them out. So we've got Wormhole Connect, native token transfers, Wormhole queries, messaging like we spoke about, and the Wormhole SDK, or actually the Wormhole SDKs. So let's talk a little bit about Wormhole Connect, and I'm going to go into details as we move along, and there's going to be like a technical walkthrough, at least how to get started as well. So Wormhole Connect really is a widget that you can put into your application with simply just a couple of lines of code. It brings those both native and wrapped tokens, token transfers directly into your application, and you can use it on any chain you want across all the chains, obviously, that are supported within the Wormhole platform. So how does this look? There we go. This is how the widget looks. You can simply pick an asset. You can simply pick a chain. You pick a asset that you want to be transferring. You pick the destination chain. There we go, picking up the asset right now. So ETH in this case. Type in the amount. All right, then you have some options for gas, given that you might not have the local currency of the destination chain, of the target chain. And there we go. Cool. So this is pretty much how it looks then within your application. There's dozens, if not hundreds, applications that are already using Wormhole Connect because it's just such a simple solution to literally integrate it with a couple of lines of code. So moving on to native token transfers. Native token transfers are a permissionless and configurable framework for multi-chain token transfers. So I just want to hammer this home. I want to double down on this. NTT is not a token standard. It is a framework which you can use to transfer tokens in a multi-chain way, right? It is a framework. It is not a standard. It is the whole thing is open source. It is very flexible and configurable. You can attach your own governance processes to it if you want. It is composable. And at the end of the day, you are the one who owns all the contracts. So there is no vendor lock-in by using NTT. There's quite a few teams that this is actually very, very new. We announced this in the beginning of the year, and up to this point, quite a few teams have already started using and implementing NTT. So we're on a really good track to be seeing more and more. Messaging, like we spoke about, messaging is really the open source protocol, the underlying layer that enables all of these secure transfers and arbitrary data transfers between different blockchains. So it's fairly easy to integrate. It accelerates your growth, and it's very, very secure. Messaging is something that you can deeply integrate into your application and begin to modify it. Just pretty much multi-chain applications that are being built are integrating it deeply beyond just what you just saw, for instance, with Wormhole Connect. Now, the Wormhole SDK, in this case, we're really talking about the TypeScript SDK. This is the version 2 of the SDK. And it's a modern SDK, the TypeScript SDK, to pretty much take your app or wallet multi-chain. So we're going to dive deeper into this, but it's got a universal API, very modular and simple to organize, and it has a flexible signer interface. So a few of the things, but like I said, we're going to go deeper into it later on. Wormhole queries. You can leverage queries for very efficient and inexpensive, as well as on-demand cross-chain data retrieval and attestation. So this is very much one of the newer products as well. It very much simplifies the development. It's very flexible, and it saves a ton on gas because it works in a pull manner instead of a push manner. So very much worth checking out. Some of the use cases that can be built, for instance, cross-chain price feeds can be built, cross-chain asset verification, unified cross-chain digital identity, and so on and so on. And as you'll see, we also have some of these in the project ideas, which you can build within the Sui. Some of the teams that are using this already: Cheeto, Balancer, Synthetics, Infinix, and so on and so on. So more and more. This list actually might not be fully up to date at this point. All right, developer tooling. Pretty much just see some of the code. Let's see some of the examples. We're going to talk about the developer tooling specifically in respect how to get started the easiest. All right, let's start with Wormhole Connect, as it really is the simplest way. Now, I want to caveat this, that Wormhole Connect, although being the simplest, the integration really isn't something what we're looking for in the Sui hackathon, because it is just so simple that I think participants in the hackathon can go a little bit beyond this. But nevertheless, I still want to show you a little bit how this looks like. So to get started, head over to the docs, to the Wormhole Connect section, and start playing around with it. You can download the NPM packages, and that would install the React components that you would need. If you are not using React within your application, you can also just simply use HTML to bring Connect into your application. So there's a couple of things that you can modify as you go along, but I'm going to let you explore these on your own. The Wormhole SDK v2 is like I said, we're talking specifically here about a TypeScript SDK, and you can get started with it. Obviously, go to the docs and check it out, but you can get started by installing the NPM packages. So the SDK provides you some basic tools for working with any Wormhole supported chains. It's what we call a pluggable protocol support. So you can use or implement your own protocol and make it available to other developers. So there's a lot of flexibility on it. The router interface to provide a set of options for a transfer request, allowing selection of best routes. This again is the flexibility and also some the optimization part that you can use. So you can actually go in and select the routes that you want to be using within your application. So you don't have to download the whole thing, and you wouldn't have the option to select the routes that you want. And this leads to the ES module, so this is to ESM, and it allows you to dynamically import stuff to keep your bundle size small. That pretty much means if you look at the first 3 lines of code, we're only importing EVM and we're importing Solana. So you do not need to import everything that we support into your application. All right, native token transfers. We've spoken a fair bit about entity already. So here you have the instructions to start with Solana and EVM. I think the best way to get started here is to follow that link and to explore some of the examples. Because you can easily, using the examples, you can easily fetch and build the code. The tests are also provided. You can add custom logic for token management. You can implement a custom transceiver, which, by the way, is also a part of some of the project ideas that we have later on. And you can run provided configuration and deploy some of the scripts. So I think this is going to be the easiest way to get started by just diving into the examples that we have there. Queries. We also spoke a little bit about queries. You can pretty much get Wormhole Guardian verified RPC query results suitable for pretty much any on-chain use. So here also we have the EVM side outlined as well as the Solana. I think the easiest way, without me going into all of these details, is to navigate over to our docs and pretty much start with the get started section. So it uses something that if you're developing an EVM, you should be familiar with eat call parameters, which you need to fetch the data you're interested in. So this is a very intuitive way of using our infrastructure with some of the stuff that you might already be familiar with. All right, Solidity SDK might not be fully applicable here for the Sui Hackathon, although I still wanted to mention it because you can use the Solidity SDK if you plan on going to a EVM chain, right? So it pretty much, this is the way to modify some of the on-chain stuff that you would be interfacing with. And it allows you to interface interface with the core bridge, with the token bridge, with queries, CCTP, the reader. So there's a lot in there. I think the best way to get started with this, again, is navigate to the docs and see if this is even applicable for you without me trying to explain the whole thing. All right, last but not least, let's talk about some of the project ideas that might be really interesting to build out. Before we go into this, I do want to caveat it that these are ideas. These are by no means bounties, or this is not an RFC. These are some of the ideas that we internally came up with so that you might have a better notion of what direction you can take your project. All right, the entity manager and transceiver. So potential project examples here include a standard entity implementation using Wormhole for transceiver attestation. So pretty much a entity implementation. You can build a custom entity implementation using an alternate attestation service. So the attestation here is pretty much the Guardian network that we're using. You could build out your application by building a custom attestation service. So there's definitely room for you to experiment, to hack, to build, and to try out new things. You can also build a custom entity implementation for multi-chain first NFT collections. So there's a lot of room to play around with entities for the NFT side of things. But yeah, entity general, I think, is a fantastic way to use Wormhole and to bring it into your multi-chain application. Wormhole queries. Some of the projects that you could build out include a governance system that works by querying a remote chain for current governance settings. Potentially could be a potential multi-chain marketplace, gathering listings and ownership details from a remote chain, or just a custom multi-chain oracle. Right? So a lot of stuff that can be built with queries within your multi-chain application. The Wormhole TypeScript SDK v2. So I'm very specifically saying TypeScript SDK and the version 2. Right? So preferably you'd be using the v2 of the SDK. Some of the potential project examples that you could build, a custom integration in your favorite open source wallet, a web service that provides bridging to your customers, a custom route implementation using your Wormhole-enabled protocol, and just generally improvements to the SDK to provide some missing functionality for the Sui platform. Right? We're doing our best to kind of build up the Wormhole TypeScript SDK across all the chains that we support, but there might be functionality that's missing. So part of your submission could also be improving that functionality for the Sui platform. So more information on these project ideas can also be found on the Notion page that we shared with the hackers a while ago. You can access this by going directly to the Notion or using the bit.ly link or scanning the QR code. So that is it. Thank you very much for listening to this talk. I hope you got something out of it. I hope it guides your multi-chain app building direction a little bit, but I am also very happy to connect with you. You can reach me on my email, urban@wormhole.foundation if you want. You can find me on the Sui Overflow Discord as well, or just simply reach out in a DM. So thank you very much. I wish you happy hacking, and I'll see you around.